What's good, y'all? We are so very close to the NBA playoffs. The regular season is done, and tonight we have the start of the play-in tournament. When you guys are seeing this video later tonight should be the Western Conference play-in tournaments. Then the next day is the Eastern Conference play-in tournaments, and by the end of the week, we're gonna know all the playoff matchups. Everything's gonna be set, and it's gonna be finally time for playoff basketball. But of course, before all that, we do have to get through the play-in tournament, and in this video, I'm going to be giving my breakdowns and predictions for each game and talk about who I think is going to be the 7th seed and the 8th seed in both conferences. Before we get into it, I want to leave a reminder for you guys to leave a like on this video and to subscribe to the channel if you already haven't. Playoffs coming around, we're going to have a lot of great content, at least 2 videos a week, so make sure you don't miss out on that. And now let's get into the matchups, and I'm going to start out west because that's who's going to be playing first. And of course, the first matchup is going to be the 7 versus the 8 seed, the New Orleans Pelicans versus the Los Angeles Lakers. And I'm really excited for this matchup. Honestly, I'm excited for all of these games, but I'm really excited for this matchup because I feel like ever since Anthony Davis got traded to the Lakers, these teams have been just intertwined and they've had a lot of really cool matchups back and forth throughout the years. But when you look at the matchups this season, the Lakers have dominated them. They are 3-1 versus the Pelicans this year, including, they versed each other in the in-season tournament and won by 40 points. That was an insane blowout. Then they also had a few other big wins, a 17-point win, and then to end off the season, they just had a 16-point win against the Pelicans. And obviously, I don't know LeBron personally, but to me, it seems like he kind of takes this Zion matchup a little bit personal. I don't know if you guys remember, but when he was coming out of Duke, Zion was compared to LeBron James, saying he was the best prospect since LeBron. They're both the big, strong forwards that have elite athleticism. And I feel like LeBron James kind of saw that and felt maybe a little disrespected by that, saying, I'm way more of a basketball player than just athleticism, and he kind of goes out there and tries to dominate Zion every single time. And when you look at the numbers, it backs it up. First off, LeBron is 7-1 versus Zion in his whole career, and he averages 28.5 points, 8 rebounds, and over 10.5 assists. Insane numbers. The efficiency is there too, shooting 55% from the field and 43% from 3. Whenever he sees Zion across from him, he wants to dominate the game. He also is a pretty good defender against Zion. LeBron has that combination, like we were just saying, of size, strength, and athleticism where he's able to keep up with Zion, both in the paint, when he's got to body up with him, but also with his quick bursts off the dribble to drive to the paint. And more recently, we've seen when LeBron is guarding Zion, he gives him a lot of space. He gaps him a lot, just plays basically in the paint no matter where Zion is and kind of just waits to meet him there. And it works out, it forces Zion to miss a bunch of shots like that or to settle for jump shots, whether that's a 3 or in the mid-range. Just this last game of the season, we've seen in this matchup where LeBron was guarding Zion, he left him a lot of space. Zion was taking those mid-ranges, and that's what the Lakers want him to take. They don't want him to be able to get to the rim and get to the free throw line. They want him to settle for jumpers, and LeBron has forced him to do that. But honestly, if the Lakers want to win this game, in my opinion, it starts with Anthony Davis and him dominating the paint both offensively and defensively. When I made my video talking about the Pelicans a few weeks ago, I talked about how their weakest position group is their center. They have Valanciunas, they have Larry Nance, and then they kind of sometimes run Zion at small ball center. Besides that, that's really it. Obviously, Zion and Larry are going to be really small compared to Anthony Davis. And then when you talk about Valanciunas too, he cannot hang with Anthony Davis, respectfully. Valanciunas is a bigger body and can make it a little bit more difficult for AD, but Anthony Davis is the better rebounder, he's the better finisher down low, he's better in pick and roll actions as well. I mean, we're not even talking about defensively, he will be able to clamp up Valanciunas for sure. But then if they want to go small and have Larry Nance or Zion run the center, Anthony Davis is versatile enough and he has that, perimeter quickness, the mobility to guard those smaller fives while still having his dominance in his size. And the Pelicans are a team that really like to get to the rim. Obviously when Zion is your best player, that's going to be a heavy portion of your shots. But also Brandon Ingram this season has been incredible at finishing. Trey Murphy is also great at getting to the rim and finishing. So it's going to be really important for Anthony Davis to lock down that paint for the Lakers. And I mean, he's been doing it all season. The Pelicans are going to need their shooters to knock down shots, specifically Trey Murphy III, CJ McCollum. He's been been on a heater recently. He's got to continue that going into the play-in game. They're going to need to stretch out this Lakers defense. With all that being said, I do have the Lakers beating the Pelicans in this play-in game to secure their spot at that 7th seed. I just think that the matchup of LeBron and Anthony Davis is going to be way too much for the Pelicans to handle. Like I said, we've seen it throughout all season. Those two have dominated this team, and I think that's going to continue for this last one. And in our next play-in game, we have a rematch of a playoff series last year. We have the 9th-seeded Sacramento Kings versus the 10th-seeded Golden State Warriors. That playoff series went to Game 7. It was a close one, an amazing series. Probably my favorite first-round matchup from last year's playoffs. But this time, it's just one game, single elimination. If you lose this game right here, your season is over. No redemptions, nothing. And I feel like it's probably going to go the same way as it did last year, where the Golden State Warriors will upset the Kings. I say upset as just the seeding wise. I don't really know if you guys think that the Golden State Warriors are really underdogs, or if, Vegas says that they're underdogs. But to me, I feel like they should win pretty handedly. I said this going into last year's playoffs, but Draymond Green is probably the biggest nightmare matchup if you're Domantas Sabonis. Even though Sabonis is bigger than Draymond, like by a pretty wide margin too. I'm pretty sure Sabonis is like 6'10", 6'11". Draymond's only 6'6". Draymond is a little bit more physical than Sabonis. Obviously, Sabonis is still a very physical guy. He's a bang down low type of center. But Draymond has that strength to hold up you in the post like that. Obviously, he will foul you really hard and send a message if he wants to as well. But also guarding screens, he's incredible in the pick and roll and also on those dribble handoffs, which Sabonis loves to do to kind of get that Kings offense moving. I think Draymond can very easily mess that up a little bit. And then also when Draymond's on offense and Sabonis is matched up against him, it's going to be a lot of screen setting and dribble handoffs as well for Draymond, which means that Sabonis is going to have to play up and guard that perimeter, whether it's drop coverage or if he has to switch out on the perimeter as well and guard a Steph Curry in space. I mean, it's basically a free cook session at that point. And with Sabonis struggling so much, the Kings fell back onto De'Aaron Fox to pick up his slack and Malik Monk to pick up some slack as well. Unluckily for the Kings, though, they are without Malik Monk for at least another 2 weeks. Definitely, he is out for this specific game. And in the last 11 games without Malik, the Kings are just 4-7. He was, he's my 6th man of the year. He's probably going to win the award as well. He's just such a big part to this Kings offense. And if you're already going to have some struggles with Sabonis offensively and you're missing Malik Monk, they've been missing Kevin Huerter as well. It's going to be a lot of pressure on De'Aaron Fox, and I don't know if he's going to be able to handle all of that. And I mentioned all of this stuff about this game, but I have yet to talk about Stephen Curry, the best player in the series, my pick for clutch player of the year. In a single elimination game, Steph Curry is probably one of the top 10 players you're going to pick first, maybe even top 5 players you're going to pick first. I believe that Steph Curry is going to be able to will the Golden State Warriors to a win to move on to this next round. And unfortunately for the Kings, after being the 3 seed last year, they're going to miss the playoffs. And if my predictions are correct, that means that the Pelicans will verse the Golden State Warriors to see who can secure that 8 seed spot. And the number one thing that jumps off the page when I look at this matchup is the Golden State Warriors do not have enough size to keep up with the New Orleans Pelicans. The Warriors have a few different centers that they like to run. They've been starting Trayce Jackson-Davis recently if they want some more, athleticism and like that lob threat at that center position. Obviously, they'll have Draymond run that small ball as well. Kevon Looney, he's been kind of getting spot minutes here and there, but if they want like a little bit more of that rebounding there, they'll put him in there. But the tallest guy that I mentioned right now is 6'9". They have no real size, no real rim protection at that center position. And like I was just talking about with the Pelicans versus the Lakers, the Pelicans love to get to the rim, and that's the biggest reason I picked the Lakers was because they have that great rim protector of Anthony Davis. The Warriors don't have that. They don't have anyone that's going to be able to stop Zion from getting to the rim and finishing, or Brandon Ingram from getting to the rim and finishing. They don't have that. And I could see Valanciunas playing a bigger role in this type of matchup because he has that size and he's able to, no one can match up against him. He's going to be able to grab those rebounds and, get those quick little post hooks that he loves to really just kind of toss up there. And even when you look down the Warriors lineup, they don't have anywhere near the size that the Pelicans have. The Pelicans have a whole lot of length on the perimeter, whether it's Herb Jones or Brandon Ingram, Trey Murphy III, Najee Marshall. They have a lot of size down the line. Even Dyson Daniels, he's back from injury as well at that guard position to give them some size. I feel like that's going to give the Warriors, and more specifically Steph Curry, a lot of trouble. You know, he's going to go through 48 minutes of being guarded by Herb Jones or Dyson Daniels. One of the two is going to be on him, and that's a lot of length on him. And don't get me wrong, the Warriors are really, really good at forcing teams to go small, and, you know, they have to switch out on the perimeter, and they stretch out the offense or the defense so much that teams are kind of forced to go that small ball. But I have a lot of faith in Larry Nance or even Zion if they want to go super, super small at that center spot. I really do like the Pelicans' chances to beat the Warriors here. So that would mean that the Lakers jump up from the 8th seed to the 7th seed. The Pelicans drop from the 7th to the 8th. And then the Kings and the Warriors both miss out on the playoffs. Now we are moving on to the Eastern Conference side, where we have the 7th-seeded 76ers, that's a tongue twister right there, versus the 8th-seeded Miami Heat. And this game is probably the one I am most excited to watch, not only because whoever wins will verse my New York Knicks in the first round, but because these two teams are such rivals, and whenever they play, it's always a hard-fought game, you know, gritty, down-to-the-wire type of thing, and I think that's exactly what's going to happen in this game. The Sixers are coming into this game red hot on an 8-game winning streak. They had Joel Embiid back for parts of those games. In those 5 games, he has been looking incredible as well, averaging 30 points, 9 rebounds, and 5 assists, while shooting the ball incredibly well, 50% from the field, 48% from 3. Like, he is back to being, you know, that MVP level player that we've seen Joel Embiid start the season with before he went down from the knee injury. And the Heat have the personnel to really crowd Joel Embiid and make it really difficult for him. Obviously, they have Bam Adebayo down there at the center, who will be the primary matchup, I would have to assume. And then they have a whole lot of length around him to really just make it difficult when they send those doubles or in those passing lanes. You know, guys like, obviously, Jimmy Butler to start it off, Jaime Jaquez, Hayward Highsmith, Nikola Jovic, Caleb Martin, Duncan Robinson. Like, they have a lot of length across the board that can really make it difficult. The one thing, though, Joel Embiid this season has made a huge jump playmaking wise, and I really do trust him to make that at the double team, make the right pass. And I think that was a big point of emphasis for, you know, Joel, Nick Nurse, and the 76ers to really get that playmaking aspect out of him, because throughout this season, we've seen them make countless pickups to get shooters around Joel. Obviously, they still have Tyrese Maxey, who is an incredible shooter, both off the dribble and off the catch. But then they went through, and when they traded James Harden, they got Nicholas Batum. They picked up Kyle Lowry off the buyout market. They traded for Cam Payne. You know, they traded for Buddy Hield. They have a lot of shooters around Joel. So if they run that double team, or if they run that zone as well, the Heat, that they love to do, the Sixers, I think, could shoot them out of that. So I do expect a big game from Joel Embiid, whether that's just a playmaking game or if he gets to his dominant scoring as well. But on the flip side, when you look at the Miami Heat, I really don't see anyone that can guard Jimmy Butler. I think that Jimmy Butler is going to be able to have his way with the Sixers. You know, you could kind of think like Nick Batum, he's got the length to do it, but he's kind of getting up there in age. I don't know if I want him to be guarding Jimmy Butler for majority of the game. Kelly Oubre is who I would assume they probably, you know, at least start off having on Jimmy Butler, just because he is, you know, pretty athletic. He's got the good defense, the long arms as well. But, you know, besides that, Tobias Harris, he can get some minutes on him. You know, they don't really have those bigger wings that you need to guard Jimmy Butler. Because Jimmy Butler, I mean, he's only like that 6'6" range, but he is strong. He plays physical. He will go through you if you're not big enough. And I don't know if the Sixers really have anyone that could stop him. And at the end of the day, I do think that this is going to be a super, super close game. Like I said, this is the one I'm most excited to watch. I think this is going to be the best, you know, in-season tournament game that we see. I gotta go with the best player, though, and the best player in this game is Joel Embiid. I think the Sixers will win this to secure that 7th seed and, of course, go up against the New York Knicks in the first round. And just like that, we're going from the game I'm most excited to see to the game I am least excited to see, and that is the 9th-seeded Chicago Bulls versus the 10th-seeded Atlanta Hawks. When you compare these two teams to the rest of the 6 teams that we've talked about today, you could see there is a clear gap in talent here. No disrespect to the Chicago Bulls or the Atlanta Hawks, but I mean, they really aren't in any type of tier compared to all the rest of the playoff teams. The Atlanta Hawks are ending the season super cold. They're ending on a 6-game losing streak. Meanwhile, with the Chicago Bulls, they are ending the season going 5-5. One of those losses was a really close overtime loss against my New York Knicks. Since the NBA schedule makers decided to have the Bulls and the Knicks play 3 times in the last like 5 or 6 games of the season, I've had a good chance to watch the Chicago Bulls recently, and they've been playing some pretty decent basketball. You know, like I said, obviously there's tiers to all of this, but the Bulls have been playing pretty good. They've been playing really hard, and when I look at the matchup, I just don't think that the Atlanta Hawks are going to have enough perimeter defense to slow down DeMar DeRozan, Kobe White, Ayo Dosunmu. You know, like those 3 guys are going to be the biggest offensive punches for the Bulls, especially DeMar DeRozan. I feel like DeMar is just going to cook. And then on top of that, for the Bulls, after a very disappointing season for Nikola Vucevic, he's been ending off the season really strong, averaging 18 points, 10 rebounds, 3 assists, while shooting the ball really efficiently, which has been the #1 disappointing part of Vucevic, his efficiency. But in these last 10 games, he's been shooting 50% from the field and 39% from 3, which is a huge uptick. Then on the defensive side of the ball, I think Alex Caruso is going to be able to really give problems to Trae Young or DeJounte Murray, whoever's, you know, going to be having the hot hand that night. I think the Bulls just stick Alex Caruso on them and just let him wreak havoc. But then beyond that too, they have guys like Javonte Green, who has been incredible as like that undersized power forward spot for the Bulls. He's been really good for them defensively and also getting some, you know, just energy plays in general. And with that being said, I do have the Chicago Bulls winning this play-in tournament pretty handedly over the Hawks. I don't really think it's going to be a particularly close game. I think the Bulls are going to be able to go in there, handle business. Unfortunately, though, for the city of Chicago, right after that, they're going to be matched up with, by my predictions, the Miami Heat. And Jimmy Butler's not going to be playing around with that. Just like last year, it was a rematch. It was kind of close, but you see Jimmy Butler will hit that switch. The Heat will hit that switch, take care of business, and unfortunately just steamroll the Chicago Bulls. When I look at the Eastern Conference, it is very easy to see that it is an 8-team deep conference. You know, once you get to that 9-10, like I said, it is a huge drop-off, and it would take a miracle for the Bulls to beat the Heat. Maybe we can have another DeAndre DeRozan moment where she just, you know, shakes the whole crowd, makes you miss a bunch of free throws, and forces the win. The Chicago Bulls go crazy. That would be the miracle that happens. But realistically, I don't think that the Bulls have enough offense to keep up with the Heat defense. I think the Heat's defense are just going to suffocate them. And then respectively, like I said about the 76ers matchup, I don't see anyone on this Bulls team that could really guard Jimmy Butler. You could put Alex Caruso on there, but he's going to be a little bit undersized for Jimmy. So that means that out east, everything stays the same. The Sixers stay as the 7th seed. The Heat stay as the 8th seed. And now we have the playoffs set. Once these play-in games actually happen, I will be going through each playoff matchup and give my predictions for that. So if you aren't subscribed, make sure you are so you don't miss out on those. But let me know down in the comments which game you are most excited for. Like I said, for me, it's definitely going to be the Sixers versus the Heat. But in close second, I am pretty excited for the Kings Warriors. I think that'll be a pretty good one. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure to leave it a like, subscribe so you don't miss the next one. In the description, there's links to all my social medias, so make sure you follow me on all those to keep up to date with me. Catch y'all.